Coming up next on Columbus Connections, we are talking parking. So you definitely want to stay tuned to find out where you can avoid getting a ticket. Don't go anywhere. Welcome to Columbus Connections. I am your host, David Britt, and we have a kind of a good problem in Columbus is that we're experiencing a renaissance of sorts. There's so many things to do downtown. There's football classics and concerts, and there's a 5K like every 5 minutes. So for that reason, there are a lot of people going downtown. A lot of people want to get there. You know, we're talking parking. Where do you park? What do you do? What happens? How do you avoid a ticket? But what happens if you do get a parking ticket? Well, I have with me just the people to talk about that. First, let me introduce you to the new manager in town. We have a brand new parking manager, and that is Miss Tarana Crawford. She's here with me, and we're going to talk parking, and we're going to just get into it, all right? Let's go to you. Let's just bring you on in here and show people your face so that they know who to complain to.
Okay.
No, but seriously, in all seriousness, it is a very big responsibility. It is something that is definitely needed in a progressive community. It's not always the most popular position to have, but it is definitely needed. So we definitely thank you for your efforts and your service and what you do.
Thank you.
And tell us also who you brought with you.
Okay, I brought my supervisor, Mr. Edward Fliblin. He's the supervisor of the Planning and Parking Division. And we're here just to try to get some things corrected and, you know, make sure that the people are aware of where to park and where to go.
Absolutely. Now, let's start with that then. Tell us where to park and where to go. Where do we park if we're coming downtown? I guess the best way to start is we have 2-hour parking, we have 4-hour parking. We also have the free parking in the garages.
Well, our free parking is at the River Center garage, and you can park all on the 1st through 4th floor. We only utilize the 5th floor for events and everything if you are able to rent it out. And we also have free parking on the 1st and the 5th floor of the Bay Avenue garage. And if you do want to go across the street to the Front Avenue parking garage, there's free parking on the 1st floor, but the rest of the levels are used for CSU students. But when it comes down to the 2-hour and 4-hour, it's, you know, from all the way from uptown. So, you know, you just have to make sure that you look at the signs to make sure that you're in the correct zones.
Got you. Mr. Fleming, you've been in your position and you were experienced with this.
Oh, yes.
So you see kind of the progression that Columbus has been and the increased need for this service. Can you talk a little bit about where Columbus has been and where we are and where we're going as far as the downtown and the parking?
Well, like I said before, parking came about. A lot of people, of course, complaining about where they could park. They would come, they might circle around to try to park in their specific place that they like to shop. So they like to be close to the front door. So limited spaces, of course, like on Broadway for uptown. So again, they would circle, and so they would know where to park. If they're going to park on the street, they risk the time of possibly getting a ticket. So they take their chances. So we established for free parking, like she just mentioned, for the River Center parking garage at 9th and Broadway, where they can go and do so. So you can take your time and leisurely shop, so you don't have to be in a rush. So you don't have to miss your opportunity for shopping at your favorite store. Otherwise, if you keep circling, of course, that revenue goes, as well as the vendor may lose that customer because they could go to another location. So going forward, we brought in, like I said, for those free locations where it could be beneficial to individuals that like to, of course, have a free parking space, but to abide by the different time schedules for 2 and 4-hour parking now, which are already assessed, of course. Then, of course, they can still park on on-street parking or in various garages, whichever may fit their needs at that time.
Right. Now, once upon a time, there used to be those old white chalk where they would go around and chalk all the tires. And the people that work downtown and live downtown, they tried everything. They would try to go out and wipe off the chalk. They would try to move their car back. They would move to the next one. That really doesn't work. That's not really how things are done now. How are things done now to monitor the parking?
Well, like you said, we no longer, do the chalking on the tires to let citizens know when they are being timed, but we do just like, for them to know that if you do come to a parking space at, say for instance, at 10 o'clock, and you're at a 2-hour zone, just make sure that you go back and look at your vehicle at 12 o'clock because you only at a 2-hour zone. So if their officers within that area, they're going to have your tag, in their handheld, and they're going to come back by. If they see that tag number, then yes, at the 12:01 mark, there will be a citation written. So we just have to make sure that the public is aware to always, keep track of your time, no matter if it's 2 hours or it's 4 hours, because we no longer chalk your tires. So do not look for that anymore.
Right. you know when you've been somewhere for 2 hours.
Yes, and I understand time does, get past us and everything, but when you're downtown, if you really don't want a citation, you have to just be critical with your time. Just make sure that you just keeping track of it, and make sure that even if you just have to park on the next block or just park across the street, those are the necessary things that you can do to extend your time within that period so that you don't go overtime parking. So, just again to reiterate that, when you're going to a 2-hour zone or a 4-hour zone, and your time is going to be coming up with ending, you just need to just park on that next block to that area that you are at, and then or park across the street so that your time can start over and you have no worries of getting a citation that day.
Gotcha. And while we're talking, we're rolling a couple of the do's and don'ts on the screen, and I know we're touching on some of those also. When you get a parking ticket, what are some of the things? Where do you pay it? How do you pay it? What are the different charges for that?
Well, with technology being the biggest thing, the main thing, you can pay online. You can go to columbusgeorgia.org/metro or /parking, and you can be able to go on there and pay your parking citation. Just make sure that you have your citation number and your license plate, and it should be able to pull up on there. Most fees are $40, but if you do go past the 10-day period of the date that you got the citation, it will double to $80. And those are the most tickets that do double. We have $100 citations and $200 citations, which will still stay the same after the 10-day period. But again, to go back to where you said where to pay for those citations, we also have a drop box at the Recorder's Court and at the Public Safety Building. And you can always come in person. I'm always willing to help you out at 814 Linwood Boulevard.
Awesome. And Mr. Fleming, let's go through some of these do's and don'ts
Sure.
for a second. So a few things that people tend to overlook that may be common sense, but maybe common sense isn't always common.
Okay.
But there are certain parking spaces where you're not allowed to back into it. You have to be parked direct. That can get you ticketed. It's
Sure.
not just that can get you ticketed. In addition to just how long you're there, is how you're parked. Are you
Right.
double parked? Are you obeying all traffic laws, not just parking?
Correct. Yeah, if you back into a parking space, like I say, it's prohibited if you're loading or unloading equipment or material. Once you are finished with your activity, of course, you need to park correctly within that space. Otherwise, if it's left in that position that you've backed into that space against that curb stop, of course, you will be cited. As she mentioned earlier, the minimum citations effective July 1st of 2016 was $40. And so it carries a $40 fine for that type of citation that would be written. So that would definitely is a issue that you don't want to get involved in. But again, if you have to load or unload, of course, put your flashes on so the officer will know exactly this is what I'm doing. So at that time when it's over, then of course you could return to the proper parking position and you won't have a citation.
Do you get any other complaints? Because you're just so smooth with it. It's like I wouldn't even argue with you. You're like, you know what? Whatever you said I did, I must have done it, because you just lay it out so smooth and so just velvet with the parking instructions.
Well, I do get a lot of complaints. I mean, they do come. Like I said, whatever we as a team, we do get different complaints. So depending on what the nature is and how involved that the citizen would like to have a conversation, of course, it may come my way. But again, we try to, as we're doing now, to give them a total awareness as to what they can and cannot do. So there's no miscommunication.
Right. Now, Taronda, there is also a time limit. Once you get that, not just the time limit as far as parking, but a time limit as far as the fees when you get ticketed. Am I correct? So let's talk about that.
So when you do get a citation, for example, if you got a citation today, you have within 10 days to pay that citation. That's consecutive days, not 10 business days.
Gotcha.
So after those 10 days, if it's not paid, it will go to a double of $80 citation. Wow. And so if you got a citation for parking near a fire hydrant, which is $100, or parking within a fire lane, which is a $200 citation, wow. as well as parking in a disabled parking space, which is another $200 citation. Those citations will stay at $200 or $100, but all $40 citations that are past that 10-day period will be $80.
Gotcha. And of course, if people want to ask questions about their citations, who would they contact, or how do they call you and get in touch with you?
They can call me, the parking manager. They can call me at 706-225-4584, and I'll be happy, to answer any questions or concerns, or, help you out with how to pay the citation, or just anything, you have dealing with parking, any questions about Uptown. Just, I'm here to help. My line is always open.
Awesome. And that's the great thing, that through all this, people aren't always happy to get those tickets, mm-hmm. but you're definitely here to help, and you're definitely helping out and doing a great thing.
Yes.
Let's recap. So with parking, number one, there are 2-hour and 4-hour spaces. Primarily downtown is where we're talking about. Mm-hmm. But there are also a lot of nice nearby free spaces where you can park. What are those spaces?
Again, that's the River Center parking garage right across from the River Center, and also Bay Avenue garage, which will be the 1st and 5th floor. Mm-hmm. And then you have Front Avenue parking garage, which will be the 1st floor of that parking garage, which have public parking.
Right. And if you're in a 2-hour space or a 4-hour space, it's your responsibility to know what time you got there, mm-hmm. and how long you've been there. You also want to honor, obviously, other street and parking laws, like not being double parked, not being parked in a disabled space.
Correct.
Making sure your car is facing the correct way if you're on a certain street, and those things can also get you ticketed as well.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
If you do get ticketed, you have that one fee that you're paying within 10 days, mm-hmm. not business days, but actual calendar days. Mm-hmm. And that after a while, after that 10 days, that gets doubled.
Correct.
That's correct.
And
mm-hmm.
tell me again, what are the places that you can pay the parking citations, and what form of money is accepted? You
can pay online with the credit or debit card at columbusgeorgia.org /metro. And you can also come in person at our main office at 814 Linwood Boulevard, and we accept cash, card, check, or money order at that location. And we also accept checks or money orders at the drop boxes at the Recorder's Court and also the Public Safety Building.
Awesome. Did I get everything? Did I leave anything out? Anything else you guys want to add?
I do want to mention, like I said, overtime parking is our biggest thing with getting parking citations. Mm-hmm. So just so everyone is aware that the overtime parking is not just so much as the Uptown area. It is, on any public street. So your highways, your roadways, your neighborhoods, anytime mm-hmm. that you are parking over 12 hours on a public street, that is considered overtime parking. So we do get a lot of those citations as well, and we have a lot of residents, who come and aren't aware of, you parking outside of your home for 12 hours, because that's technically public street. So we, just want people to be aware, when you have your car on the main street, just try to check on your time as well, because mm-hmm. after 12 hours, it's considered as it's a vehicle left unattended.
All right. Anything else?
I think she's covered those main points, but like I say, again, just to reiterate, the website is www.columbusga.org/parking, and you can find any ordinance that we're speaking of right now. If you have any questions, we're here happy to assist you.
Awesome. Now, give us that phone number again of where people can contact you.
706-225-4584.
And again, I know you don't probably hear it enough, but thank you for your service, because it is definitely needed. Another thing that we deal with when we're getting to be a more progressive city, when we have more people coming downtown and want to partake mm-hmm. of all the events, we have to make sure that everybody is respectful of everybody else's time. Sure. And as servants for the city, it's our duty to make sure those mm-hmm. things are taken care of. Well, thank you all so much. We'll have you guys back on the show again to update us if anything changes. Keep this information in mind, and as always, thanks for watching Columbus Connections.